This eye-catching evening dress was made in 1909 by Callot Sœurs, one of the first true haute couture houses of Paris. Known for their well-made and highly embellished gowns, the Callot Sœurs boutique that sisters Marie, Marthe, Regina, and Josephine Callot opened in Paris in 1895 was described by a customer of their day as a veritable Aladdin's cave of antique and ethnic textiles imported from Asia and the Middle East. Following the style of the time, this gown consists of two main layers, an electric blue satin base and a mesh netting overlay embellished with gold and blue sequins. The bodice of the gown, as well as a section at the neck, were probably salvaged from textiles of a previous era. The detailing recalls a 19th century French fascination with Middle Eastern Orientalism, inspired by Napoleon's invasion of Egypt from 1798 to 1801. Along with the significant discovery of the Rosetta Stone in 1799, this European campaign in Egypt inspired many Western travelers to go to the Near and Middle East, many of whom represented their experiences through paintings, prints, and drawings. Between 1801 and 1822, the French government published a 24-volume Description de l'Égypte, an influential publication intended to convey the architecture, natural life, and people of Egypt. These volumes and the fascination of Egyptian and Eastern cultures inspired the Orientalist paintings of artists like Jean-Auguste-Dominique Ingres, Eugène Delacroix, and Jean-Léon Gérôme. In art history, literary, and cultural studies, the term Orientalism refers to the imitation of or depiction of the Eastern world, usually done or made by writers, artists, and designers in the West. The eldest Callot sister, Marie, was trained in dressmaking and worked earlier for Roudnitz & Company, prominent Parisian dressmakers. All four sisters learned how to make lace from their mother, who was a lace maker. The sisters began working with antique laces and ribbons to enhance blouses and lingerie, which led to expanding their skills to create couture garments, including tunics, nightgowns, and evening wear. The sisters' lace-making skills are represented along the bust, which is decorated with gold and navy filet lace. Filet lace is a term that comes from the French word filet, or network. This is a type of square or mesh net or lace that was made by hand with a long blunt needle and thread. The lattice of beadwork over the raw silk mesh at the neckline recalls the bead shrouds that covered mummy wrappings found in Egyptian tombs from the 7th and 8th centuries BCE. Like the bead shroud of Tabakinkonsu, discovered during excavations between 1894 and 1895, now in the permanent collection of the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York. The dress's glittering theatricality probably had to do with the fact that the Callot sisters' shop at 24 Rue Taitbout in Paris was only a block from the Paris Opera. Its fishtail train shows off the distinctive style of their work. 5 years after they were founded, the Callot Sœurs label was represented at the 1900 Paris World's Fair and, in the same year, employed 200 people and did 2 million francs worth of sales. By the next year, they had tripled their staff and doubled their sales. In 1916, American Vogue declared Callot Sœurs, quote, foremost among the powers that rule the destinies of a woman's life. Madeleine Vionnet, inventor of the bias cut method of dressmaking, worked under the Callot sisters at their atelier. She said, quote, without the example of the Callot Sœurs, I would have continued to make Fords. It is because of them that I have been able to make Rolls-Royces. A young woman wore this gown to a fancy ball in the summer of 1909, in all likelihood blissfully unaware that the design of the dress may have been inspired by ancient Egyptian funerary practices. The donors, Susan Biggs and Myrta Spence, found it many years later in a trunk in the attic of their mother's house. It has been part of the Gregg Museum's permanent collection since 2003.